にお入りの上、お席にお着きください。まもなくトピック3を始めさせていただきます。皆さんお待たせをいたしました。
Thank you very much for waiting. I hope you enjoyed the morning session. Now that I heard the terminology dementia-friendly many times, dementia-friendly environment, dementia-friendly communities is the topic that people are trying to promote. And the afternoon session's major theme is how to build the dementia-friendly community. I believe that not only the vertical, top-down, the approach for the government to implement this dementia-friendly environment, but in Japan, maybe we can combine that activity with the ICT, which is very well developed in Japan. ICT can connect people. So with the top-down, and also maybe we're able to expand the flat, horizontal, or transverse relationship to achieve the dementia-friendly community. We talked about the care, but up until now, we didn't really spend much time to think about how the dementia care can be connected with ICT. So let's think about that in the afternoon. The chair is the Dr. Shuichi Awata of Tokyo Metropolitan Institute of Gerontology.
Research Director of Tokyo Metropolitan Institute of Gerontology. The theme of this meeting is Dementia-Friendly Community and ICT. We will discuss in this meeting what is dementia-friendly community and how to create a dementia-friendly community, and how promising the ICT is to support people with dementia. Before starting, I informed the audience I have changed the order of speakers. The first speaker is Professor Peter Whitehouse because he has to leave to Haneda Airport to have flight on 6 o'clock. And if there is Miss Cindy Cordell, she is one of co-chairs yesterday's discussion. I'd like Miss Cordell to give some impression of today's speakers. So let's start immediately. The first speaker is Professor Kozaki. He is one of the co-chair of yesterday's meeting of session 3 entitled Living with Dementia in Community. So I'd like Professor Kozaki to summarize yesterday's discussion. Please.
Thank you. Can we have our slide, please? Yeah, I will quickly summarize or review the session 3, Living Well with Dementia in the Community. So I chaired this session with Cindy, and I hope Cindy is here. And this session, we talked about share information of progressive approaches from across the globe, designed to enable persons with dementia to continue living in the community, and as such. And so the first speaker was from Dr. George, and he introduced the idea of EU-based initiatives on dementia-friendly communities. So he introduced such as AFE Innovent. This is a network system, and these initiatives should be realized with the collaboration of WHO and a European Innovation Partnership on Active and Health Aging initiatives. So he introduced this stuff. And the second speaker was the chairperson, Dr. Awata. So he introduced the Japanese national 5-year plan for promotion of dementia measures, which is called Orange Plan. And he also introduced an example of dementia support team meeting in a small island in Miyagi Prefecture. And in conclusion, he concluded that for the creation of dementia-friendly community, community-initiated efforts and government-initiated policies, so those collaboration must be necessary. So that's his conclusion. And thirdly, Dr. Pauli, she introduced a program of local alliances in Germany for people with dementia. And thus far, 292 alliances were developed. And in doing that, a strong demand to participate and multitude of different thematic approaches and regional differences were found. And she also introduced 2 good practices that are County of Hartford and City of Emden. And fourthly, Dr. Hughes, he showed an example of how corporations can contribute to create a dementia-friendly society by showing a very attractive VTR. He said that NTV in Japanese, number 4 channel, this VTR will be on. So, for example, he showed in this VTR that the scene of a bus or supermarket or in the back. And Dr. Takami, he introduced the promotion of Tsudoi meeting. And this is getting together of people with dementia and also carers. And Tsudoi provides a good opportunity for sharing experiences and feelings and mutual encouragement and social inclusion and networking. So Tsudoi is an attractive initiative and which is very simple and low cost. And Professor Kim showed the various IT tools in Korea, such as web-based information portal and application assisting diagnosis and prevention system, and the newspaper-based cognitive training program. And Dr. Utsumi, she showed that to realize the society where all the people with dementia can live with a sense of security, collaboration of 3 measures are necessary that are volunteer system and good care program system and multidisciplinary collaborative team approach of first aid to the suspected persons. And the last speaker, Dr. Otani, she introduced the development of the regional dementia care community initiatives in Omuta City, especially the project of Wandering Watch program, very attractive, and education of more than 8,000 elementary and junior high school students with the help of picture books. Now those students have grown up to help persons with dementia. For example, they help the wandering person. So there are a lot of initiatives going on worldwide, in Japan and in Germany or UK and others. So the discussions were how do we measure the what are the good things and what are not. So, and we talked a lot, but because it's not very easy to measure quantitatively, but probably we need to understand these things probably more in a qualitative manner. So we didn't get a conclusion, but anyway, those care stuff, care need system is very useful, and that's happening everywhere worldwide. So this is about it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we have, thank you. So we have only fails. So we have only 75 minutes for all speakers. So I will have a short period for discussions after all speakers speaking. それではですね、ここから日本語で。
I will switch to Japanese from here. So the next speaker is the Dr. Sadao Katayama.
Katayama.
Dr. Sadao Katayama is the president of the Alzheimer's Association Japan, and also he is a neurologist. He's an MD. Please allow me to speak in Japanese. It is a great honor for me to be able to speak at this opportunity. We are dealing with people with declining cognitive function. And how do they feel? That's always what we feel. With the tests, many people feel that they are not understood. And sometimes they do not know what they're doing. Particularly, it is true when they feel nervous. But in the hospital setting, when they toil, they pass the test. So because they do not fail the test, they cannot be given a diagnosis. In the morning, Ms. Fujita said that there was a vacuum period before the diagnosis was given. And that's true for many people. Those daily living and sometimes instantaneously people with declining cognitive function do not know what they're doing. And they cannot ask the people around them what they're doing. And at that point in time, they feel something is wrong with them. However, they do not go to hospitals. And then they can no longer do the risk management. And they could have done the risk management if they were given the diagnosis earlier. But when they go on a trip or when they are having fun with friends or when they moved their house, they do not know what they're doing. And eventually they may have to be hospitalized, but they can no longer live in their homes. And sometimes they are given pharmacotherapy. But when their cognitive function is declining, that sort of the pharmacotherapy may lead to delusion. And sometimes they are the victims of the swindling. And there are many things that they cannot do, including going to the toilet. They can sometimes not be able to converse with families, and sometimes they feel that they are being watched by others. So in that case, they need to have the families who always give them smiles. And then if they feel numb, they can no longer say thank you, and they may die. Many people say that when they die, they want to say thank you to people around them. But sometimes people with declining cognitive function cannot do that. But we have Tsudoi, and that is the group and the meetings of the groups of people with dementia and their families. So they meet the people with similar conditions and they can converse, and they may find something that they didn't notice before. This is Tsudoi, and this sort of the meeting is very important pillar for them to keep on living. But sometimes physically, some of them cannot come because they are living far away. Or sometimes they forget the existence of Tsudoi's meeting, or other times they do not know where the Tsudoi meetings are being held. Or even during the Tsudoi meetings, they go to the toilet and they do not know how to return to the meeting room. So how can we do that? That is exactly why we are trying to establish the many systems to help them find where they are and what they're doing. That sort of the ICT can help us a lot because when they go to the meetings, there could be the ICT system to help them so that they can know where they are and what they're doing. And this is Pico Sella multi-hop Wi-Fi system. That is a solution. This is with the use of the Wi-Fi, and even in their homes by manipulating the tab that is very small, will tell them where they are inside the home. This sort of the system may not be available all the time, but this sort of the solutions can be rented out, and also this can be reimbursed by the long-term nursing care insurance. That's our eventual hope. Thank you.
片山さんには家族の気持ちを分かち合うというですねことの
And Dr. Katayama talked about the importance of sharing the feelings with their families, and also the importance of the tsudoi as a meeting place of the groups. And then he touched upon the important aspect of the ICT. Thank you. Now we'd like to go to the next speaker. That is Dr. Oku Koichi.
は
Mr. Koichi Oku is the person with the dementia, and at the same time, he operates Matsudashi Connection Society Japan. He is a member, actually, of the Matsudashi Connection Society Japan. And also, as we had the Ms. Speaker spoke in the morning, he's also the member to start the Japan Dementia Working Group. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I'm Koichi Oku. In Japan, Oku means a wife, a madam. So although I'm a male mom, my name sounds like somebody's wife. By the way, so I'm 72 years old, and I was diagnosed as a temporal type of dementia. There are two, the frontal and also temporal type of dementia. There are two reasons for diagnosis. The pickpocketed because that is a characteristic of my type of disease. And I went to the convenience store to buy the cigarette, and I bought a cigarette box. And then for some reason, I picked up the box of another cigarette without paying it. I don't remember, and I didn't know why it was wrong. Then I was caught, and I was presented to the police. And I'm sorry, that's a shoplifting, not a pickpocket. And so I was the accused, and I was interviewed, and then I was released to my family. So I felt miserable because I was not treated as a human being. But then, with that experience, although I shoplifted again and again, so I did that 3 times in a short time of period, and I didn't understand why I did that. I didn't know why I had done that. I didn't have any clue why I was doing that. And that's one of the reasons that why I was being diagnosed. And also, I became deeply involved in the gambling. That was a horse racing. And we have the organized crime called Yakuza. And because of my strong the involvement, I was being targeted by Yakuza, and I wasted more than several millions of yen. So, with the healthy judgment, that wouldn't have happened. However, I didn't have the normal judgment, and I didn't understand why. So, because of that situation, that was a trigger for me to be diagnosed. And when I was diagnosed as a dementia, I felt relieved. I felt that, okay, all these behaviors are caused by my disease. But that was only one momentum relief. Post-diagnosis, the dark world started immediately after diagnosis. Once I was diagnosed as the dementia, my family started feel it's very serious, like shoplifting. My family thought that they have to monitor me for the 24/7, because if I did the same thing again, then that will cause problem in the society. I was like house arrest. I had to stay home all day with my wife, and that's it. I was not allowed to go out. I was isolated. I didn't have any touch point, any connection with the external world. So that was that my world turned all black, and that black world is so heartbreaking. I had no sense of living. I had no hope. I was just eating and breathing just like a vegetable. I was a living dead. I was in a living hell. I felt that we human beings had to connect with friends, connect with community, connect with people around us. That gives us sense of living. So have a connection with society, that's good. But if this connection is being shut out, and if one is in a despair, then maybe that is the same as one's death. I thought that if that situation had continued, I would have died in several years. But after living in hell for a little bit more than 2 years, I was able to encounter with the day service facility that I'm currently use, and this day service center gave me life again. At that day service, the facility emphasized the importance for me and for all the people with the dementia to connect with the society one more time. And I started using the long-time care service after diagnosed, and I used to go to a different the day service facility. And for that daycare services for carers, caregivers, that the caregivers had the certain time of respite care, because that facility, the purpose was to give respite care to caregivers. So actually, that was a caregiver-centered facility and not the person with dementia centered. So, however, this current daycare center that I use is different. Of course, that this daycare center has the caregiver center approach. However, it also has the actual the people with a dementia centered approach, and the center emphasize the importance of connection with the community. So actually, we can be given a very simple tasks, jobs from the shopping street in the community. So I'm able to work, although it could be simple, and also we are being paid whatever the small amount. This is great experience because we are making a contribution. We are creating a value to the community, and most of all, we are connecting to the society. And this gives me the realization that I'm working and I'm getting paid, and I'm getting a recognition by the society. Again, I regained the sense of living and purpose of living. I'm repeating myself, but the current daycare service that I use is working very hard to make elderly and people with dementia to be connected with the society so that we are encouraged to live. And one of the activities that this daycare center provide is to visit the grade school to have the storytelling. We have a picture, homemade, the storytelling flip chart. Then we tell the story, famous stories, and then toward the end we tell story about how it's like to be like people with dementia. And I tell the grade school children that I am actually the person with dementia. So I talk to grade school kids, and I have a hope that in 30 to 40 years later, 50% of Japanese population will be older than 65 years old. That is unprecedented. And these current grade school children are going to support us, support elderly in 30, 40 years later. So not only are the people with the dementia, but for all the elderly, for all the people with disability, I hope that these current grade school kids will nurture the empathy and compassion to help the vulnerable people. We live in a world. I am fortunate to stay in the community, and I hope that our community will be developed in a way that people with the dementia and people without the dementia can live together to realize the truly genuine society with the prosperity. Dementia-friendly society is friendly society to all the people, even if they don't have dementia. I hope that not only people with dementia, but all the people can stay in the community where we are used to living. And as I said earlier, that I hope that the daycare center I currently use, this kind of place, I hope that this kind of facility will be realized at least one in one town. We, as a person or people with dementia, should not be reactive, should not be just waiting. We have a voice, and we should open up. We should speak up. As it was introduced by the previous speaker, we, people with the dementia, should get together and have a sense of accountability, because we are the one with the people with the dementia, so that we should be confident in ourselves. We should respect ourselves, so that way we can maintain the dignity. So that was also mentioned by Ms. Fujita, and as a co-chair of Dementia Working Group in Japan, we would like to help realize that kind of society, and also we would like to cooperate with other organizations. I hope that you will continually understand and provide support to our the activities. Last but not least, I would like to quote my the favorite word, as Dr. Christian Gryden said, that there's no discussion about us without us. So we will work hard, and I appreciate your help. Thank you very much. Mr. Oku, thank you very much.
Here is Mr. Peter Whitehouse, who is professor of Case Western Reserve University and University of Toronto. Please start.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and apologies to you and to my colleagues on the stage and to the audience for needing to leave early. This time I will only be in Japan for 48 hours, and I was here a few weeks ago. My topic will fit nicely with our speaker, the individual who shared his experiences with dementia. I want to start where I ended yesterday talking about what our legacy will be, because I think we have to, as the representatives from the World Health Organization and ADI tell us, and we know in our hearts, think about the implications of what we are doing for the rest of the world. And this is especially true with technology, because I will be talking about some things that are very expensive and some
この
because I think that the world will be influenced by the income inequities and the environmental changes, and that those are great threats to all of us, including people with dementia. So we must ask the countries of the other parts of the world, the low and middle income incomes, and we must listen to them. I interestingly decided to talk about the social connectivity of information technology, again, to refer to our previous speaker about the importance of the social networks that we have and how information technology can support that. E-health, telehealth, M-health, mobile technology, very important in the low and middle income worlds where many people have cell phones but not so much clean water. Virtual reality, these are some of the things that I want to talk about. I must ask you all to turn up your central process unit speed to listen to all the connections that I'm going to try to draw in 8 minutes. I here show the work of my colleague James Fowler, who has talked a lot about the power of our social networks and how they shape our lives. This is one pair of individuals. These are many pairs. Perhaps these are scientific researchers, perhaps they are patients with dementia in our communities. We need to become interconnected. The technology can do this so that our social networks grow and grow. And these are important for health. Dr. Fowler has shown that the drinking habits of our friends affect us. The eating habits of our friends affect us. And I think the thinking patterns of our friends affect us. In Cleveland, we actually developed the first caregiver support before mobile phones, before the World Wide Web, purely on a text basis. And we were given an award by Vice President Al Gore for that. So I think the notion that we can create community now using broadband, gigabit connectivity. And in Cleveland, we have something called One Community, in which we do health and wellness and public safety and education and even energy management. So there is much we can do to connect ourselves and inform us. This is the work called telepresence, where you can be present on a screen and share that screen with colleagues who are from different parts of the world. And this is me at a meeting of the US Ignite Broadband Initiative, going into the homes of individuals and doing what we call brain health coaching, helping them to address the risk factors which are so important by using broadband connectivity to access their lives and to provide information. We must think about social networks, though, across time and in nature. So as I said yesterday, we have to focus on healthy environments for all of us, regardless of age, because the diseases, the conditions that we are talking about start early in life and are caused by many factors, not just single molecules. There is a vast industry called brain fitness. In fact, for those of you that are interested, look at sharpbrains.com. They just had a virtual conference reviewing all the evidence that games can help your brain, can prevent cognitive deterioration. It is controversial. It is a huge marketplace of memory, as we referred to. What the brain fitness technology industry says about us and how we can do better, because I believe in the power of IT, but I believe right now we are overselling it without the evidence. For example, I believe in the power of information technology to help our bodies move, exercise. Probably this is the most important thing we can do for our brains. And so the Microsoft Kinect and the Nintendo Wii, we are using those with older people and younger people working together, sometimes with dementia. Here I am meeting Paro. You meet Paro here on this floor. I think he has gotten a little bit more intelligence than when I first met him, because he is a very cute harbor seal, and he was the first generation from Japan of robots. And there are many robots to see here. But robots are not so smart, and I want to introduce you to my new colleague, Watson. Watson is the IBM computer that not only beats human beings at chess, but beats human beings at a game called Jeopardy, which is based on very subtle contextual information, often with humor. Watson, attached to Paro, would be a very powerful caregiver. And we have to, I am being asked, what can Watson do for us connected to our social networks? We are in the era of cognitive computing, big data. We need to develop new techniques for analyzing what we can learn from these large data sets which you have talked about, we've talked about at this meeting. Frankly, I remain a bit skeptical. I think big data is like many fads. It is important. It will be used wisely, I hope, but right now we don't quite know how to use it. And as our computers get faster and faster, we will have more access and we will have more collaborations with computers. This is an article from the Toronto paper right after Yves Joinette's meeting about the importance of big data to fight Alzheimer's. I want to take you now for a few minutes into virtual reality. Here I am. This is me. I am Echo-wise. I am Scottish. I am dressed in my Ferguson kilt with my colleagues, occupying Second Life. And there are a variety of techniques that we can use, including video games, which are virtual reality, to exercise, to have fun, and to learn about the world around us. Here are our avatars. Here is the map of the forest in which older people and younger people are going to work together. Here is the game interface. And they go into this forest and they try to learn how to save the virtual forest from some insults. They model nature in virtual reality. Here are our children doing that in our classroom in the intergenerational school. But I want to end by the phrase that I used in my title, collective wisdom. Because I think people working together across the ages, and perhaps scientists working together across the ages, can do things that we cannot do alone. We need open, disruptive, intergenerative innovation. This is a photograph I showed yesterday of young people from Cleveland working with older people from Toronto in a forest. This is the picture of Kay Fuller, who educated our children about her important work in activism in the community. And so I am going to make a very concrete proposal that we add to the World Dementia Council. Please listen about this. Not only people not from the United States, and perhaps not so many men, and perhaps a little more diversity, but let's add a few elders, and let's add a few youth, and perhaps a person with dementia. So intergenerativity is a word that the translator will not know because I invented it. It means we must have intergenerative innovation, where we go between, integrate. We've heard this word at this meeting so much in order to go beyond into a healthier family, into a healthier future. And I'd love to use the expression that we human beings need to learn to think like a mountain. And where is the most wonderful mountain in the world? Here in Japan, Mount Fuji. So I want to thank the Japanese government, the Japanese people, for inviting me, and I am sorry I must leave early. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Peter White. Introduced some examples how promising ICT is. It might be contribute to increasing social participation of people with dementia. Thank you very much. So next speaker is Mr. Mark Waltman, who is Executive Director of Alzheimer's Disease International.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I want to give a little overview of dementia-friendly communities worldwide. And I want to remind you why we need dementia-friendly communities, and this is what this slide is about. The growing number of people with dementia means that we need a good response from society to live well with this disease and with the people with dementia. And I think we have seen some wonderful examples in the session 3 yesterday from Europe and from Japan. And this is also a reason why we need to do it. There is a new case of dementia somewhere in the world every 4 seconds. And this is a quote from Dr. Margaret Chan, the Director General of the World Health Organization, that calls on all stakeholders to make health and social care systems informed and responsive to this impending threat. I think dementia-friendly communities is a very positive way of looking at living with dementia and being inclusive in society. They aim to create an environment with a good level of public awareness where people with dementia can participate in society as long as possible. And I couldn't tell it as good as you, Dr. Oku, who gave this from the inside, how important that is. You don't have a life if you're not in connection with other people. And it's so sad that so many people with dementia are excluded. And it's not necessary. So it's very good that these initiatives have risen. As ADI, we always try to oversee the whole world and then see if we see some commonalities or some specific things in parts of the world. But what we saw in this area, that there are 6 domains in which this dementia-friendly communities concept is taking place, which often starts with public awareness. But it's also important in the planning process. If you plan to build homes for people with dementia, you have to think about using of colors, how you make it clear, the signage, all kind of things like that. So the physical environment is important and should be supportive. And the same accounts for access to businesses and public services. I was in a little town in Holland a few months ago where they started this project, and someone came from the library and he told how difficult it was for people with dementia to find books because of the system that they used. It was very complicated. So they had found out that there were some people with dementia using it, and they simplified the categories in the library. It's the same with our town halls when you have to renew your passport or get a driver's license or other things. It can be very complicated. And just looking through the eyes of someone with dementia makes it easier. And by the way, everyone benefits from that, not only people with dementia. So another issue is transportation. That's also very, very important to be connected. What we see happening is a 2-tiered approach. The invisible network of businesses, emergency services, healthcare, other civic employees working together on making services more accessible. But the other thing is bottom-up. It's the grassroots movement. And that comes from people with dementia themselves, who speak out, who are brave, but who tell what they want. And that's the basis of these improvements. So it's important that the two work together, that there is this input from people with dementia, and that the people who providing the services are open to get this information. Here's a few examples, and the list can be made much longer after this meeting here yesterday and today. But in South Korea, they started in 2008, and they were together with France, the second country with a national dementia plan. And they started the training of 120,000 volunteers to support families of people with dementia. And they took 4 years for that, and it happened. Well, you know, of course, the Japanese course with the orange bracelet that now went over 5 million and has a huge impact in your societies. And the UK took that over, and Canada is now going to start as well. Many countries have these Alzheimer Cafe, Memory Cafe. Maybe it's almost the same as the Tsudoi. I think that's the Japanese way of bringing people together in an informal setting and learn from each other and support each other. We have done our homework, and here in the front there is a fact sheet with more information about dementia-friendly communities worldwide. So if you're interested, please take a copy. And it's getting more and more because there will be another one from the next session. So there are a couple of learning points from what we experience worldwide. So first of all, it is very important to involve people living with dementia, family carers and experts in setting up a dementia-friendly community or a dementia-friendly project. And in that order, so please start with involving people with dementia. The bottom-up process is helpful. Everywhere where this happens, we see that local resources are mobilized. Many people want to help and want to join. And there's lots of innovation coming out of these projects. So ideally, it should be part of an overall dementia strategy. I think if you start working on a dementia plan or strategy now, it should always include dementia-friendly communities. And maybe we come out of this meeting with a new idea, which is twin cities that are twinning in a way that they connect with each other, two dementia-friendly cities. For instance, Tokyo and Amsterdam could twin and learn from each other. So that's very nice. Alzheimer's Disease International is a global organization, a global umbrella organization of Alzheimer associations. You can find us on the web, but also on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Waltman. Mr. Waltman introduced or summarized examples how to create a dementia-friendly community from international information. Thank you very much. それで次の
Next speaker I'd like to introduce, and that is Mr. Goshima Kyokuni. Mr. Goshima is from the Association for Technical AIDS.
テクネル協会の企画
This is Goshima from Association for Technical AIDS. I'm the Planning Department Manager. Thank you for the introduction. I'd like to explain about the current state of the welfare technical aids and the care robots. Together with the Ministry of Economy and Ministry of Welfare, they are joining hands in dealing with developing the technical aids and nursing robots. And why robots in the nursing care world? This is an explanation of the background. As you know, the population is aging, and this is not limited to Japan. In Asia and in Europe, they are following this trend in Japan. For instance, looking around the facilities, there are many people with dementia from mild to severe. And if they are in the facilities, the facility staffs are busy with dealing with the severe cases, and then by joining the facilities, their cognitive functions may deteriorate even further. So in the facilities, they are trying the measures to maintain the ADL and the cognitive functions of those in these facilities. And also in the year 2015, there will be a shortage of the nursing care staffs by 1 million, and also there is a back pain issue of those nursing care staffs. And last year, there was a guidance that was amended to protect the backs of the nursing care staffs. That is why use of the nursing care robot is one answer to that. Instead of the humans, the robots can do the heavy lifting. In Japan, we have the Japan Rehabilitation Strategy, which was devised by the government last year. This is in the next 5 years, the government will promote the use of nursing care robots so that these robots can help people become independent and so that these robots can alleviate the burdens of the caregivers. These are what currently the country is doing. This is the two ministries joining forces to deal with this issue, particularly the Ministry of Economy. They are mostly on the side of manufacturing, so they are responsible for setting up the safety issues. And on the other hand, in the Ministry of Welfare, at the earliest stage of development, they are contacting the manufacturers so that the actual needs would be reflected. There are many elderlies with dementia, so those people with dementia perspectives can be incorporated, and also the caregivers' perspectives can be included. So from the prototyping at the earliest stage of development, the MHLW is conveying these requirements so that these will be reflected in the robot's designs. This is the Ministry of Economy, Trade Industry, and the Ministry of Health and Welfare, and they pointed out this as an important areas in 2015 on. So these robots will help the transfer assistance and mobility assistance, and also the bedpan assistance, monitoring for dementia persons, and the bathing assistance. So these are some of the things. Of course, it would help the transfer and the mobility. And in Japan, instead of taking shower, people take baths. So this is requires a heavy lifting, and it's a lot of work. So robots can be very useful. You may think that the robot in the form of human beings, but not necessarily that as long as it's a robot, if there is a sensor and the intelligence and the motor. So sensor will be used to detect the environment, to detect the movement, and then the intelligence will order the movement of the motors for actual movement. So that's probably the definition of robots in dictionaries. So that sort of technologies can be utilized. This is by the Ministry of Health and Welfare. That is a partner of Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. And so they do the consultation and they do the matching between the robot manufacturers and the nursing care front lines. And also, they can incorporate the perspectives of the people with dementia and the caregivers. So this Ministry of Health and Welfare is serving as a consultation window. And also, they are responsible for testing the environment. They ask the medical institutions which can cooperate in the scheme, and then they can connect these medical facilities with the robot manufacturers. And also, these are the robots particularly dedicated to the care of people with dementia. And this started out from last year. There are several examples that I can share with you today. Paro was already mentioned. And what about this humanoid robot? This is about 40 centimeters in height and 1.4 kilograms. A very light, very small robot. But this robot can recognize the people's faces, and this can distinguish about 100 different faces. So these robots can come to the day care centers, and they can join in the games of the quizzes and watching television with those people inside these facilities. And also the bottom one is the one that is to connect those inside the facilities with families living outside. For instance, the elderly in the facilities can be connected with their grandchildren who live far away in homes. So this sort of the technologies that can remotely connect. Skype is one technology that is already available. But that sort of the technology can be made more readily usable. So this can be used to actually to enable the people to actually do things that they want. And also, these are some of the monitoring equipment. By ensuring the privacy of the people, they can have this sort of the monitoring support. There are many sensors all over, and to see whether the people are in danger or they can be left alone. These are some of the patterns that are used after sensing, and these conditions can be patterned, and then instead of the humans, these machines can monitor the safety of these people. At the Ministry of Health and Welfare, not just the priority areas, these are some of the ideas. This is to monitor those people with the home oxygen device, or these are some of the things to sense the danger, and this is the transfer from the wheelchair to bed, for instance. Not just the manufacturing, but at the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry is responsible for commercializing these technologies. For instance, it is not just to give subsidies for the facilities to purchase, but the manufacturers and the caregivers and the facilities can form a triangle network, and they can together go through the trainings and also the assessing the measuring the effectiveness of these systems. And this is led by Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, and our association also responsible for helping. This is one example of the demonstration projects using the robots. These are some of the measures of the effectiveness of these systems. These are the robots, and the effectiveness or the machine performance is one thing, but I'm not talking about that. This is from the user's perspective, including the users and their caregivers. And what about their evaluation of these systems? These are the robots. And by introducing these robots, what about the burden that were alleviated on the part of the caregivers and those living with the conditions? So how their daily lives are to be changed, these can be constantly assessed. And this is exactly what is ongoing this year. There are many robots and the technical aids that we develop, but these are only the tools, the machines. So it is up to the humans to make use of that, and it's up to the humans to decide what must be achieved. And so this is before the use of the robots, and the baseline, and 1 month later, 6 months later, 1 year later, how those people with the conditions and the caregivers' lives change. So on a time series, we want to follow up on how they feel, to measure the effectiveness of the systems. What about the burdens to be alleviated, and will that favorably impact the way the care is given to those people with these conditions, and whether these robots and the technical aids are actually useful or not. That's sort of the evaluation of the measuring of this effectiveness has just begun. Thank you very much for your attention.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you. As we have mentioned, Paro is a big hit. His or she is very popular, and that Paro will be on the exhibition until 5 o'clock. So please stop by and actually see face to face with him or her.
続きまして、国立リハ
Now, next presenter is from the Research Institute of the National Rehabilitation Center for Persons with Dementia Disabilities, Director of Department of Assistive Technology, Dr. Takanobu Inoue.
And it is my pleasure to make a presentation at the significant the conference. So, and I work for the National Rehab Center for Persons with Disabilities. So I'm talking about the communication robot. for persons with dementia today, and also I want to talk about the field-based innovation. It's in order to create the useful assistive technology like a communication robot. So I think many of the people here already have seen some of the communication robot already. So, and if not, so please come to the Sky Studio here and experience these kind of robot and also feel them. So currently, some of the robots showed their effectiveness for persons with dementia. So however, so there are still many questions about the communication robot. So for example, why do we use these kind of robots for persons with dementia? So what kind of the services do the persons with dementia want with this kind of the communication robot? So and also, how do we use these kind of robots? The robots is just the tools. So the important thing is how to use these kind of robots. So, but there's no answer on the desk nor in the laboratory. So the answers must be in the use field. So that's why we propose the field-based innovation. So the concept of the field-based innovation is this slide shows the typical process of the development of assistive technologies. So the concept is we should try to do the whole process, and the proposed use the field as much as possible. So I'm going to give you one of the example of this part, the first stage of the development of the assistive technologies and also robotic technologies. So we think that this part is very important before the making prototype. So we have to take into account a lot of things. So this, the project that we are doing right now, so it's a joint project with the university and also the research institute, the company, and also the facilities. The many kind of the stakeholders involved this project. The first of all, we try to make an information support robot for persons with dementia. So using this robot, Papero, produced by the NEC company. So, however, we didn't have any confidence we can make a useful robot for persons with dementia. So we took the field-based innovation, the approach, in order to make the concept, the system concept of this kind of robot. So the first part here is for the matching the technology to users at the living environment. We went to the living environment, so the home and the elderly homes. So, and then we took the participant observations, mock-up evaluation, and the user experiment for 1 month or some. So we found the core function of the communication robot in order to make a useful robot for persons with dementia. Then the second part is in the community. So in each city that has a cooperation with the project. So we conducted the group interview with the 124 older people and the 40 professionals. Then also we took the personal interview with the 9 families and the workshop with 2 families and the related professionals. And also we took the workshop so with for professionals in order to make the service model. So, and the result, we found the 172 needs from the elderly, and we made 36 the support scenarios. And then we took into account the business model, and then we made the system concept. The system concept is like this. The target users are the elderly with forgetfulness, and also MCI, the mild dementia. The service, this system provides the schedule and medication, the management. So and we also tried to make a service model with the human support. So I'm going to show you the video. This is the experiment.
いいですよ。
She's a 97-year-old lady so with the mild level of the dementia and Alzheimer's disease.
今日もデイサービスに行くんだよね。そろそろデイサービスのお迎えが来る頃だと思うから、出かける前にトイレに行っておいたらどうかな。ああ、どうもありがとうね。気をつけてくれてね。わかったかな。わかった。どうもね。出かける前にトイレに行っておいたらどうかな。そうですね。じゃあ行ってきます。よろしくね。ああ、どうもありがとうね。じゃあトイレに行ってくるね。僕が言ってくれたからね、僕が注意してくれたからどっこしょトイレに行ってくるわ。
So we found very important things from this experiment. So once the person with dementia get the right information from the robot, they can do their activity by themselves. So it's autonomy and also the independence. So it's very important things, I think. So in conclusions, so we have lots of technologies here. So I think it might be useful for the persons with dementia if we match these kind of technologies and the user's needs and the wants. So also we have to take into account the families, the stakeholders in the communities. Then also we have to take into account the user's characteristics and the environment. So these are in the community. So if we make a consensus in the community, and also we can make a good service model, so this kind of technology might be useful. So I think that this kind of circle is very important. So finally, so I like to say, so don't wait for the technologies. So let's create the technology and the innovation together. So we need a power of community. We need a power of persons with dementia. You know, nothing about us without us. So let's make it real. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The last speaker of this session is Mr. Yoshiki Niimi, Senior Specialist for Dementia from Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, Government of Japan. Thank you very much. I am Niimi from Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare. Allow me to speak in Japanese. I'd like to, well, this is going to be just kind of like a confirmation of what's been covered by the two previous speakers, community ICT. How can we connect the two? This is a very important thing to materialize what's discussed under topic 3. So this is the illustration of integrated community care system for people living with dementia. To continue to live in the community, we need to provide healthcare support as well as long-term care. And these need to be connected in the community, embedded in the community. The importance of that is emphasized with this illustration. The person living with dementia needs to be supported in this context of network for transportation, healthcare, daycare, and other care services. But of course, ICT carries a very big importance here in this community for the creation of community ICT usage as well as a robot usage is really a very important part and parcel, integral part of the community building. So in the past 2 days already, we have heard from many speakers about community building, and Nintendo supporters or dementia friends have been mentioned many times already. But just to make one comment on dementia friends in different communities, in different professions, those supporter activities are very important, and the caravan mates are to provide education to further more people so that we can expand the network of dementia friends. So this is a very important system outcome of this initiative. Right now, there are over already 5 million dementia friends or supporters, so that is the level of the speed of this expansion. And as, of course, we discussed in the morning, we need to discuss what would be the future target. The previous two speakers have already introduced care robots. Care of carers and assistance provided for the people living with dementia to take a bath or to go out, or when they are missing and wandering. We have a collaboration between METI and MHLW. The collaboration is really significant because MHLW can grasp and capture the needs that are there in the field, meaning that the ministry can be involved from the early stage of development to develop those robots so that they can really be useful. So this is a very important model of collaboration between different ministries and agencies. So what can be done by robots and technologies? For instance, assistance of medication is one thing, or the sensor can be attached to the bed, and the mobile phone can receive the information through the sensor to know whether the person is asleep or sitting on the bed or leaving bed. And communication robots can be used for providing information to the people living with dementia, and emergency call can be made, and assistance of medication can be done, and detection of wandering can be also possible, and also fall can be prevented. So we really need to integrate all of these services in the technologies to be developed. So these are the different types of robots and technologies, and they are also displayed outside of this room, so please take a look at them later. In order to develop those technologies effectively, what we need is to provide space for demonstration and a monitoring system. And it's also very important to raise awareness. So this is an integrated approach for developing technologies and robots. This is a very busy slide, and this illustrates the project for psychiatric and neurological disorders. The MHLW got together with NEXT, Ministry of Education, to promote research and development activities in this sphere of condition, from basic research through demonstration, experiment by MHLW, as well as a cohort study. Eventually, all of these activities are towards the target of overcoming dementia. So specifically about MHLW, there are three main fields that we are trying to address. One thing is the pathology of this condition, and what is the reality of this condition, and how such knowledge can lead to better policies. And through these approaches, we can come up with a better prevention approach or creation of community. And this fiscal year, prevention and community creation, these are the areas we are thinking of utilizing big data or ICT. So these are the topics of our studies and researches in order to reduce their burden in the clinical sphere of the people living with dementia and their families. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。それではですね、本当に時間がないんですが、最後にですね、シンディ・コーデルさんに、全体のですね、まとめというのはちょっと。
Now I'd like to ask Dr. Cindy Cordell to give us a feeling if it's maybe might be difficult to summarize all the speakers. So please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chair of the Dementia-Friendly Communities session, and I appreciate all the comments today about a dementia-friendly community. And I think what is exciting is all across the world, we are all trying to do interventions to help make it a more friendly society for people with the disease as well as their caregivers. I think some common themes that I've heard is basically what are the elements of an effective dementia-friendly community. We're all trying to make it effective, but sometimes the funders want evidence, and therefore there's a lot of anecdotal data. We even heard today from somebody who spoke from the heart how much it helped him. And I'm encouraged to see that many of these programs do have evaluation arms so we can get some data in the future. As well as, I think another common theme is that efforts to create dementia-friendly communities really have to be driven by what the people with dementia as well as their carers want, and not necessarily what maybe other people want. And to really get them involved in what they need is really helpful to create a great environment. Also, another theme that came out was this whole idea of intergenerational education and collaboration and just connectivity. And it really would be helpful if our younger people understood about dementia and the cares and the burden, because eventually they are going to grow up and be elderly themselves. And they are really the ones, I think, that can make a huge experience be much better if they can see somebody in the community that may need a little help, and if they offer their help, it means a lot to those type of people. And also, just members of the community that I think are very critical to really be involved is your first responders. We heard today how, a policeman thought somebody was stealing when in fact it was a dementia that was causing that behavior. And so many programs I know around the world are to help these types of first responders understand some of the signs and symptoms that it may be dementia, not other things that are really a problem. And last but not least, I also think we've seen what wonderful ideas have come about collaboration. We not only have to collaborate with our societies, our government, our private sector, our nonprofit organizations, because it's really then that's the community that's going to go out there and make life better for those with the dementia as well as their carers. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございます。本当は最後にですね、質疑の
Thank you very much. I was hoping that we could have the question and answers sessions, but actually, Ministry of Welfare, Health and Labor and Welfare told us to keep the time. So we have a break after this. So I hope that you have opportunity to ask questions in person. Now, I am actually confident that we had a very good discussion, and also Mr. Oku's the testimony and presentation to tell us that connecting to the society actually gives people's hope and will to live. That is an extremely valuable comment, and I hope that that understanding and Mr. Oku's message will help us to create dementia-friendly society.
Yes.
どうもありがとうございました。本当に粟田さんもおっしゃっていました限られた時間の中で。
So as Awata-san said as well, with a very limited time, we were able to cover a lot of topics. And of course, as listeners, we are responsible for materializing all the visions discussed. So we will take a break until 3:45, 3:45. Those speakers for topic 4, please be back to the waiting room number 1 for the lecturers during the coffee break. please take a look at the screen. Radworth University Professor Emeritus Kathy Grimslat's professor is going to present some slides of people living with dementia. If you are going to go to an excursion tomorrow, and if you haven't dropped by the tour desk, please come to the desk during this break. We will let you know contact numbers for tomorrow. Thank you.
Mm.